Listen, seeking therapy is not a sign of weakness. It's not. It's rather a sign of strength and resilience. So join me today for my conversation with a therapist today on Life Starring Deb. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Life Starring Deb. I am super excited, as I told you on last week's episode, to be here in this facility. This is Meet Me in the Dirt, and I am here with the CEO, Ms. Barbara Lawson, and the counselor, and we are going to talk about our mental health. It is so important. We've talked about our bodies, we've talked about our medication, we've talked about preventative medication and exercise and food and all those things, and now we're going to get down to it because we got to get that mental state under control before any of those other things. It won't matter if we have great bodies and we're eating well and we're exercising if this is out of whack. So Barbara, thank you for letting me come here today and to talk to you. One of the things that I always think about is why is it such a stigma in the Black community about getting therapy? What is that about?
Well, I know for sure, and in my household, and I'm sure in yours too, we were always told, don't you tell anybody my business, even from when we were little. This is my business. Whatever we are talking about, whatever goes on in my house stays in my house.
Right.
And so we had a level of mistrust even when we were little.
Okay.
And so growing up telling somebody about things that were hurtful or harmful or just embarrassing has always been something that was a no-no. And so it was a no-no then, and it's a no-no now.
Exactly.
And so a lot of people they struggle to trust enough to be able to release that.
And I think also, people kind of put therapists and psychics in the same category. Like, you're not here to tell the future or to say what's going to. You are here basically to help us sort out things that might be plaguing us, correct?
Absolutely.
To help us to bring out things that we may not talk about, maybe we don't know to talk about, maybe there are things that are hidden or buried, and you're just feeding us information to allow us to go to that place and bring those things out, correct? Or am I wrong?
Yes, and.
Okay.
The reason why I say and is I'm actually not supposed to be feeding you anything. I am reflecting. It's more of a mirror. I am reflecting that which you have already shared with me, being like a receptacle for you to be able to share these things openly without any judgment, and then for me to give it back to you in ways that you can hear it differently, ways that will help you shift your perspective and to be able to make meaning of it in a different way.
So, how then do you get people to open up and start talking?
Yeah.
This is my first session, and I'm here.
Yeah.
How do you make me feel comfortable enough with a stranger to talk about whatever? And this is a two-part question. What if I don't even know? What if I don't even know what I'm supposed to be talking about or why I should be here?
Yeah. Well, quite honestly, there's two different ways that people will go to get counseling if they're mandated to for whatever reasons.
Okay.
That's different, right? Because then you're being forced to go, and that may put another barrier up. But for people that actually come because they can already tell that they don't feel well, they don't feel at ease, within. Even on the outside, sometimes we look beautiful,
right,
but on the inside, things are just,
dress it up.
Yes,
exactly.
And so people that come because they can tell that there is something else brewing that doesn't allow them to live a very meaningful existence, those people come prepared to talk. And even if they come and they are a little bit hesitant to have a conversation, by the time, for me, this is me, I am gifted at building rapport. And so being able to help a person feel seen and heard and comforted in my space is a gift that I have. And so I'm speaking personally,
right?
But that is what all counselors, therapists, those in the healing profession should be aiming to do initially regardless
Right.
to who you are and what you're coming for. And so the people that come here, I will have already had a phone call with them so that I can break the ice, and then I will have already sort of allowed them to kind of get a feel for me. I kind of know, like a little bit about what's
The
making
background.
it. Yeah, just a little bit. Just I don't need to know everything. I just need to know a little bit reasons of why they want to come today.
Right.
And so by the time we have that conversation, when they come in, then that's my job to make them feel prepared to be able to say the things that they want to say. I don't rush it. I
would imagine that you can't.
No.
You can't, because it takes a while. I mean, some wells are deep, and people, it's hard to go there and bring out that stuff, But then what about people that feel like, I don't have no issues, I don't have no problems, I got it all together, I don't have no trauma in my life, I'm good. But they come and talk. How can counseling benefit a person like that just feels like, I got it all together, I don't even know why I'm here?
And that's not true. And none of us,
and
none of us,
that.
yes,
Explain
none
that.
of us have it all together, including right up in here.
Right.
That is really not even the goal of seeking some support. It is support, and so the goal is not for another person to be able to fix you. No one can fix another person. The goal is to be able to create a space for the person to imagine life differently, imagine the things, the traumas, even if they don't want to admit that they have, and even if it's an African American person or an indigenous person, they have just historical trauma just from who you are,
just for being. Exactly.
So whether we recognize it as that or not, there are things that have happened in our life that prevent us from being able to make sense of things in a way that helps us to sort of see ourselves as whole. Everybody has had an area that has broken them in some way, that has harmed them, and that has stained or tainted the way that they see the world. And so for those things, whenever that arises, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go book an appointment with a therapist or a counselor.
Right.
It is important for you to just realize if it's stopping you from being able to live a more fuller existence, then it might be helpful.
And that's what I think about when I think about people that on the outside they're very successful. Yeah. They have great jobs, or they're entrepreneurs and they make good money, and they know how to chase the dollar, and they're overachievers and all those things, and they have the finer things in life. I'll say that. But I also feel like that lifestyle, that fast pace, that work, it's going to catch up with them at some point, because you're giving up something to get that, and sometimes too fast. And then you burn out, and then you look up and you're however old you are, you have no family, or maybe you do, but you don't see them because you've been working all the time. Your wife or partner is stressed out. You've missed out on your kids' stuff. They grew up to say, my mom and my dad was never there because they were always working. And so I just know that speaking with somebody in terms of helping to prioritize maybe, and to see the bigger picture of the damage that mindset can do later in life. So when you said that, therapy, counseling, talking to someone, we all can benefit.
Absolutely.
We all can benefit.
Absolutely. When you were talking about priorities, us even understanding how the priorities that we have will shape what comes later.
Yes.
A lot of times when people are in here and they want to have a conversation about a certain thing, there's an area where they got stuck in this story, and I always tell them, let's finish the story. Because when we make the decision, we're not always thinking about like how this plays out well into the future, and how many people it's going to impact, and how it'll impact even us. We just live it, and then we get there and we're like, oh, I wish I would have thought about that.
So when you said finish the story, how do we finish the story, and what story are we talking about?
Right. And so that is dependent upon who you are, and what it is that you feel like is important to you. I always tell people that you can't. It's difficult to come and kind of like narrow down all the things. You can't come in with like you could come in with like a whole list of all these things you want to work on. That's not as helpful. I always ask people to narrow things down. The things that are plaguing you right now. The things that are just really a hindrance right now. And when I say finish a story, a lot of times the areas that we get stuck in thought, there's a belief, there's something that has happened, and there's a belief about that is causing us to be stuck in that. And I'm like, that's where we start digging to try to see what belief is that, what values are those, you know, tied to, and what does that make you feel about you? What have you, whatever that is that has happened, what does it make you feel about yourself that you can't go beyond this area? And so we pull all those things apart, and typically it's because of something we were made to believe, or something we allowed ourselves to believe or become as a result of something that had happened in our past.
And that is so important what you said about starting where you are right now, because first of all, the problems are not, whatever it is not going to be solved in one session.
Absolutely not.
At all. But when you start with where you are now, all of those things that you talked about is going to come up.
Yes, eventually.
Eventually it will come up.
Yes.
That is so perfect.
Yes. I don't even push. The first session is really about me getting to know me being comfortable in your space, you being comfortable in mine, us even being able just to determine if this is going to be a great fit. Energy is real, and so a person being in your, that's why I'm not a proponent of Zoom, sessions. I will do it, but I prefer to be in a person's face, if you will, in their space, so that we can feel the ebbs and flows of how humans interact with each other. That's important.
And at what point in your sessions do you feel like this person is not being honest, or this person is covering up what the real issues are, or this person is blaming every and anything other than to seek within to find out? Are there times when you just say, this is not going to be a good fit because I can't help you figure it out, or give you suggestions if you're not going to be honest, and so you're wasting my time, your money, right? Or do you just say, I'm the type of person that I'm going to continue trying. I'm going to continue trying to chip away, and then maybe that person will open up, and then we can really get to the root of what it is.
Yeah, I always tell people that I can only help you to the extent that you allow me to.
Yeah.
And so I always let them know that you don't have to tell me anything that you don't feel comfortable with, but understand that on the flip side of that, if I don't have all of the details, I'm not working with a full story, so I'm limited. And so we don't have these days over again, and so if you're going to come and if you're going to invest in this, you might as well be completely vulnerable, if you can, to the extent that you can, and honest, so that we can look at exactly what it is, so that we can, kind of sift through and see which pieces are not the best use of our energy and our efforts. And so I don't give up on people. If they are pushed a little bit against the wall by the questions that I ask, and are not ready to deal with that, they'll fall off on their own. People that actually get help by coming to counseling or to going to therapy are those who are motivated to do that. So if you come just to say, it's a popular thing to do or whatever, but if you're not really motivated to make any changes or to see yourself differently, it will not work. And so it does not matter who you go to and how you feel in their presence if you're not willing to do the work that it's going to take to change. And so I always tell people that.
And change is work. Change is work, and it's hard work.
It is the hardest thing you'll ever do.
We don't like to change. We don't like change. It's uncomfortable.
And the majority of people will not be changing. Quite honestly.
What?
Well, it's much easier to stay the same.
It is.
It's much, and so this generation, and then like the years that continue to pass, like for some reason, well, we already know the reason, but even when people get stuck in these little ways, they are getting something out of this dysfunction. Like there is a payoff, whether it looks like somebody's actually coming to, to see about them. There's something that's happening that's, there's a payoff for them staying stuck in this way. I don't think that's something that people look at initially, but if they understood that it would be better to get out of that, they would do it.
Wow.
Yeah. But it's giving them something.
Yeah.
It's feeding something.
Yeah.
But that's difficult to hear. And so I can't just say that. I can't say that to you in an environment where we haven't built a rapport, a relationship with each other. I would need to hear more from you and see how you're responding, see how these relationships that you have around you, how you're acting around them, how they are with you, or if you even have relationships. So telltale signs of people not having others in their lives, always all the women say, I don't deal with women. I don't like women. Like, those are all signs to me.
Yes.
And so when I hear those, I'm just like,
really?
Or am I the drama?
Come on now.
Are you? And so when I hear those kind of things, that just lets me know. It just helps me to understand the fuller person, and then I can ask certain questions based upon what they say to me to help me understand where they're coming from. Do I know whether a person is lying or not? Only if they've told me something, before, and I've and they said something different after the fact. Even in that, though, quite honestly, if the lie is all that if that's what they feel like they have to tell me, like, I don't judge. I've learned not to judge, because there's a reason why they feel like they need to say that. And so I try to, even if it's the most heinous thing, I try to think about what would my life have to look like in order for me to make that decision too. Mm-hmm. And so even though that may not be something that I've gone through, I really try to think about what would it have taken for me to have gone there, and how hard that must be for them to divulge that to me, a stranger.
I never thought about it like that, but you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
So I don't call people on their lies. If that's how that just shows me that you're not comfortable enough yet.
Or maybe not ready.
Or
you're not ready.
Yeah.
You're not ready.
And who am I to try to pull something out of you that, again, you're only going to be here with me an hour and a half, right? You're going to have to go back out in that world where you're not going to have somebody that's not as empathetic, or that is not, here for that.
And I can imagine, because we don't know what it took for that person to even get to this point.
Yes.
How kicking and screaming sometimes, maybe, to get here after years of knowing I should talk to somebody, or someone suggesting you should talk to somebody, and then they finally make it here, and then the last thing we want to do, like you said, is be judgmental.
Absolutely.
And be like, this ain't going on.
That's why from the front door all the way back here, when people walk in, everything that they walk into validates them as a person. If they're not walking into the retreat feeling like something's wrong with them.
Oh, now
and you already feel that.
That brings me to my question. I work at a high school. Okay. And a lot of times the kids will come in and they're like, I got a problem, I just got to talk to somebody. And I'll say, close the door. Mm-hmm. And I always say to them, let's get in the dirt. Yeah. And what I'm telling them is, you give me something and I'm going to give you something. Now, of course, they're kids and I'm not going to share everything with them, but I'm going to let them know I've had problems too.
Yes.
Or maybe that particular problem that you're dealing with, I dealt with that, so let's roll up our sleeves and let's get in the dirt.
Yes.
So I'm curious as to why you named this Meet Me in the Dirt.
Oh, I love it. Well, so my specialty is grief. I don't know if you knew that.
Is what?
Grief.
I did not know that.
And so grief is woven into all sorts of...
Whoa.
I know, right? Whoa. And so, I know. And so... quite honestly, I lost my mother. Well, I lost my father when I was 18. I lost my mother when I was 24. My mother was my very best friend. Mm-hmm. I had my first 3 children by then. And with all of that responsibility, losing my very best friend was just, to coin your phrase, traumatic, quite honestly.
For sure.
And I did not have I did have a support system, but I did not know what I didn't know. And there was nobody really around beyond the funeral to sit with me, to help me understand how to integrate the relationship I had with my mom before she passed into my life. And so it hurt too much to think about her. Mm-hmm. And so I was 24, fast forward 20 some odd years, and I had never really fully dealt with that. And so I'm raising my children, I'm married, I'm doing all the things. Mm-hmm. I'm on autopilot, going through the motions, but there is still this pain, this intense pain that arises whenever I think of her, that closes your throat, just intense pain. And so at that point, my children were teenagers. So this was a little while ago now. This year she'll be gone 27 years.
Wow. Wow.
And so the pain of that, at some point, for some people, will come back and bite you, and it did.
Yeah, well.
Because I did not deal with my stuff early, but I didn't know how. I didn't know how. I knew how to. I saw my mother handle her business. I knew how to just take care of my kids and go to work and do all the things, the dutiful things. But the part of me that yearned for her but didn't know how to access her. That was, I had to sweep it under this rug. But at some point I went to go put something else under there and tripped.
That is so interesting, because I just had this conversation with my daughter this morning, because I lost my mother when I was 10, and she died from an overdose of drugs, and the relationship was not healthy at all, because she was addicted and she was always in trouble, and my grandmother was raising me, and it was just this whole tug of war between my grandmother, who didn't have legal custody. I'm in a session, y'all.
I know.
Okay.
Welcome.
You know, my grandmother didn't have legal custody. My mother was my mother, but my grandmother took care of me because my mother was addicted. But what was interesting is yesterday I posted a picture on Facebook, and I haven't done that in a while. And a friend of mine whose mother actually knew my mother, and we kind of grew up together, she commented on the picture, and she was telling me how much, she loved my mother, and how, I looked just like my mother, and she was just so special to me, and this, that, and the other. And with further conversations, like, she used to bring me stuff, and blah, blah. And I was thinking, well, why? Why did
did
you
Mom
love
do
her?
that? Oh.
Yeah, because, you know why? Because I don't ever remember that for me.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I have 2 recollections of my mother. One, she brought me a Barbie doll when she worked at Mattel Toys for a brief time, and then she worked at this place called Bus Stop Records, and she bought me 45 Marvin Gaye, Love Is a Hurting Thing, or something like that. I mean, not Marvin Gaye, it was Lou Rawls. But that's it. But she was painting this picture that my mother was so wonderful and loving and kind, and I didn't get that. And it has, all day long, I've been thinking about, that should be something happy for me. That should be a very fond memory, since I don't have that many, like, she was kind. She was. But if I didn't experience it, then jealousies could start to build up against my friend who's just saying her experience, and I'm just like, well, why? What made you so special? And she gave you love and kind and gifts and this, that, and the other, and I'm over here. And when my mother passed, completely different from your experience, because her addiction had took us to a place, it was almost relief.
That's
because now I don't have to sleep with one eye open. I don't have to worry about her coming in, snatching me out of bed in the middle of the night, taking me on the street. My grandmother could sleep at night, and so it was an exhale. But then growing up, I feel like you didn't get to see the best part of me, and you robbed my children of knowing their grandmother. And I don't have, the one picture I have is fading. She's never around enough to take a picture, so it's fading away. My memories of her are fading, and that sucks. Being 65 and not having, and now realizing that I have resentments, and I have questions. Like, why do I do the things I do? Why do I laugh the way I laugh? Why am I such a, I want friends around, I want people around me. I love people. I give. That's just who I am. But I really believe that there's a reason for that. I probably need some therapy. You think? I think I do.
She said,
book me. Because listen, full disclosure, I've never had therapy. And if I told you my story, and I have shared my story, and that was just a part of it, and then I tell people, but I never had therapy. It is a wonder that I am how I am, with a lot of different types of trauma for a little girl. Too much. You think about addiction in itself and what that means, and I witnessed that, and I saw that, and I participated in that to a certain degree. But I'm on the other side of it. Maybe I may be on the other side, but
let me tell you, there are no mistakes. Like, there's no coincidences. Like, even you having that conversation earlier today, and then us being able to have this time together. Like, you never know why God allows things to happen, and why you are met by some people. You just never know. One of the things that came to me even earlier when I was thinking about you coming, I was thinking that the words came to me so clearly. It said, everybody's story does matter, but everybody's story does not matter to everybody.
Oh, wait. An aha moment. Say it again. Slower. Y'all get that. Get some notes. Take some notes on this one, because that was profound. Say it again.
It stopped me in my track. It said,
oh my goodness.
I heard it in my spirit. It said, everybody's story does matter, yet everybody's story does not matter to everybody.
Drop the mic.
The reason why it made me think about that is when you were talking about who is it that needs to be hearing that, and who is it? Like, is it necessary for you to share that in all types of circles? No. We share things to the extent that that person can be of assistance to us, and especially as we are more mature women, it's not important. We don't need fodder. Like, we don't need to offer people, the most vulnerable parts of our life to be able just to hear. Like, for what? For what? But it is. You know
what? What's interesting about that is because, I am who I am, personality-wise, and in my career, people seem to think I've always had it all together. Like, you just are so, and I be saying, no, like, if you really knew. But there's a part of it that makes me feel proud that they see that, because, I think I did that kind of without too much working on myself. I think I just evolved into this person, but sometimes I want to take them and go, girl, you are not ready for my story. If I told you my story, you might look at me differently. And that's why I don't share my story with anybody, because I don't want you to look at me differently. However, I do want people to see that you can get on the other side of it some kind of way. Now, as much as I say I've never had therapy, I can also say that's all I've ever had was therapy, because I get from whomever. I pull what I need from you, I pull what I need from my wife, I pull from students, and I keep pulling and keep reinventing myself to try to be better. And that's what the series is that I'm doing is, not Happy New Year, Happy New Me, but let's be a better me. And counseling and sitting and talking and cat like friends is so needed.
It is.
And this room particularly, I could stay here all day because it's very calming, and I love greenery anyway. But how did you come about the other rooms and how you decided to decorate those rooms?
So I am an artist at heart. I'm a creative, and so I know what it feels like to be made to feel welcomed and loved. I know that's that's another gift of mine. I am great at creating healing spaces, and so I know what I want to feel and what I want people that come to see me to feel, and I know the colors and elements to put together to bring about that feeling. And so again, for the nature of what we're talking about, I need my people to feel as comfortable and comforted in certain settings as possible, so that we can dig, so that we can get in the dirt. The dirt is very messy, and it's not something we plunge right into, but I need you to be comfortable enough so that when the harder stuff comes, you still have footing. You still have a stronger enough foundation of where I can leave you in this room and I can come back when you're ready to talk again.
So is that typically how it goes? Do people get to come in and decide, I want this room today, I want that room today?
Oh, I thought you meant in therapy with other places. I'm like, no, you got 45 minutes.
Yeah, you're okay. You better get it out. Time's ticking now. Go.
And I don't do that. And that's one of the things about having, that's one of the blessings of private practice. This is my place. This is my place, and I get to make the rules. And so for our people in particular, we need time. We need time. Time to unwind, time to trust, time to build, all of that kind of stuff. And so sometimes 45 minutes, a lot of times, most times, even when I went to get my own therapy, 45 minutes was not long enough for me to really be able to, as they say, throw it up. Yeah. And then feel like I could walk out and not feel raw. And so I want people to be able to say the things they need to say or not say. These rooms are hear whether you need me or not. Sometimes people may need me. Sometimes people just need to hear their own voice. You don't always need to hear someone else's voice to be able to make sense of your life. You need a pen, and you need a journal, and you need noise to be gone so that you can understand what it is that you really do need. And so for me, people, that was intentional. The front part of the retreat is the outside garden, where you see beautiful florals and you hear the waterfalls, which is all the way through the retreat, but beautiful flowers. And that thing only happens when you're exposed to the light. That shows you that you are on. That's when you were talking about who you show up as to other people. Those bright colors and all that kind of stuff. That's who people see on the outside when you cross that bridge.
Yeah, we got to talk about the bridge.
When
Tell
you
me
cross
about
that
the bridge and how did that come about?
So again, I'm intentional about everything.
Yeah.
Using your example, you were talking about to the outside, people see, everything all put together and this, that, and the other. We to a certain extent, we do that, right?
Yeah.
But the same way that plants only get their nurturing from where their roots are hidden, everything that's happening above here is for the enjoyment of us, right? But the things that are going on underneath the surface are what really feeds what's happening up here. And so when you cross that bridge, that is you acknowledging that it's now time to deal with the dirt, time to deal with your stuff, the things that really matter on the inside that help you to flourish and bloom, and to be on display in that great way. Lots of responsibility is out there where the flowers are. That's where a lot of the focus is, but the true work happens on the other side of the bridge.
So when you cross back after crossing over, and then we have our session, then we cross back, and then there's a sign up there. What does that sign say, and what does it mean?
Before you leave or at the front door?
When you leave. Out here, there's a
out
little.
Of here. Yeah, at the very top one says, everything that you say does matter. One side says, everything that you have to say does matter. And one, I think this is you are seen.
Wow.
And then that's just when you get ready, before you cross the bridge. But then when you leave, get into the front garden, before you leave out of here completely, it says, be still and know. Be still and know.
And what's so beautiful about that is you guys, you have to see this.
Yeah.
You can't, this video does not show you how beautiful it is and how the smell, the fragrance. And I just feel like after you've laid it all out in one of these rooms and then you cross over and it's bright and it smells good, it's like a rebirth. Like, oh my God, I feel better.
Yes.
And I think that's the goal. At some point you want to feel better about whatever it is that we are doing. So I have to ask, were you called to this?
Absolutely.
Like, how did you get into this?
Anytime you find someone who has a gifting in that area, is because they've been broken also in that area. So the same way that I told you about my mother, the loss of my mother, father, my brother, one of my best friends. Loss is something I've dealt with throughout my life. And I know what it feels like to feel like time is moving around me and things are moving, but that I'm like dizzy by it. It's like passing me by, and that I'm not able to catch up almost, because I can't make sense of why they're gone. All of those things. So many things to say. But because I know what that feels like, because I know what it's like to be a woman, because I know what it's like to be black, because I know what it's like to be now an empty nester, to be a mother, to be a wife, I am uniquely qualified to help certain people. And so not everybody, but those that are for me are for me.
So I want to talk about, I say depression, but really when a person is feeling just low. They're having a hard time finding the joy. And it's spilling over into their family life, their job situation, their relationships. They're just down. What would you say to a person that may be going through that right now?
So there's several things to consider. Quite honestly, we have gotten to the point that we don't really like sitting in discomfort at all. And so I think first we need to decide, is this a time for us to be sad? Like there are parts of sadness that are okay. It's a part of our human experience. So it's okay for us. We are supposed to be sad. How else would you know how to experience full joy? Like how would you know, right? And so that's one thing. If there's something that happened.
So good. Wait.
Okay.
Because that is so true. Like, there are times in our life when being sad is appropriate.
Yes.
And we run from that. It's almost like it's a bad thing that we're sad about whatever. But in actuality, that's healthy.
It's healthy, and it's a response to you being fully alive. You understanding that means you're aware that something was a happier time. Like, you are aware, you're tapped in. That means that things are working. That's not necessarily a bad thing. When it turns into you maybe not showering, you sort of isolating yourself, you calling in sick, you drinking more,
or
you
what about if you
oversexing
stay in that state too long? Is there a time when, after so much time, now you should be on the other side of that? Is that a sign that
so it depends. And again, so one of the things you and I talked about is labeling. So to really say you are depressed, you need to be diagnosed by a physician. And quite honestly, so for those people who are clinically depressed, that's a whole different, conversation. And for those folks, absolutely. But again, in order to say you are depressed, you need to be diagnosed by one. Understand that with that diagnosis comes and does not absolve you from the responsibility of actually doing the work that it takes to get your life back on track. And so sometimes people may want the diagnoses of depression or of whatever it is so that they can get a pill or some magic answer to it. But the magic answer is you. You still, even if you're clinically depressed, even if they do prescribe a medication to help your hormonal imbalance, you still have to go and do the work of learning how to think about how you need to be showing up in your life. For you, it's not about another person being able to fix you or that pill. The pill does not fix. And so majority of us, that's not the situation. Majority of us don't want to sit in the sadness.
Yeah.
And we don't want to actually look at, okay, how did I get here? How did I get here? What decisions did I make that led me to this? What is really happening here? Do I have any boundaries set up around all these things that I'm allowing into my life? Am I the problem?
Right.
Are you willing to tell yourself and to check yourself on that? And so again, that's one of the reasons why I prefer private practice. I honestly don't want to diagnose anybody, because I don't ever want that to be a crutch for you not doing your work. The same way in our generation, we had to sit down and write things out. We used to have to write standards.
For sure.
All those kind of things. It really gave us time to think about the action that we took.
I will not talk in class.
That was me. That was me. I'm talking for a living. You know what? I wish I knew where she was. Look, I got in trouble for talking so much. And now I get paid to talk.
Come on now.
People want to hear all kind of stuff I got to say.
Right.
But so those types of exercises, us slowing down and asking ourselves why 5 times, why is that? Why, us going into the deeper, in the roots, in the dirt, us getting below the surface to find out what's really going on. You still have to do that so that when these hard things come up again in life, you will have a way to make sense of it. Right. No pill, and no other person, no amount of shopping, no amount of social media. Right. All these distractions that we have, none of that is going to fix that. None of it.
Woo! That's a lot. Man, I could stay here all day and all night because I am being fed and I feel lighter. And look, I wasn't coming for a session, but
that's what you're going to get.
When I was driving here, the closer I got, my heart started beating a little faster. Like, I knew I was coming here to do this, but you never know what's waiting for you. And you have been a gift, for sure. So, Meet Me in the Dirt is in California. Is this considered like Redondo Beach. And it is in the South Bay Galleria on the 2nd floor. And I will put Barbara Lawson's information in the description, and please give her a call if you just want to talk. I mean, once you come in here and just walk around and soak it up, it makes you want to open up and say something, because if it's just thank you for this, because I have never been in a spot like this and just felt the love from the time that I came through the door. So I appreciate you so much for allowing me and my crew to come and invade this space. And I will be making an appointment because I have some stuff that I want to talk about, and it's about time that I talk about it. It's like talking to a friend. It's a friend, and a very smart friend that'll give me the tools and the work, because it's going to take work. I don't expect her to fix it. I got to fix it, whatever it is, but I have to be courageous enough to talk about it and unpack it and put it up. Put it in the dirt. Put it in the dirt.
And see what grows. And we're going to be patient with ourselves and allow each part of the process to just be what it is as you grow.
I love it. That's today's episode. Thank you all for coming. If it's your first time, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to come back. This was a lot, but I know you got something out of it. So until we meet again, be good to you. Take care.